The NRA is the foremost guardian of the right to keep and bear arms. We were founded in 1871 by a couple of Union generals who were aghast at the lack of marksmanship that they saw in Union troops during the Civil War. So we were formed as an organization to educate and train a civilian populace in the use of arms in order to protect the homeland in perpetuity. And we've done that ever since. But starting in the 1970s, the NRA realized it needed to add another feather to its cap. It needed to actually vocally and legislatively protect the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed. We take it seriously. If you're a law-abiding citizen who is able to legally buy and possess a firearm, the Second Amendment enumerates your right to do so. It's not a right granted by the government. It's a right that we have enumerated, that we are born with as human beings.
It's hard to beat shooting with the kids. Watching them get more proficient. You know, safety of course is the most important thing. And like with anything, they all started out with air rifles and then gradually went up to, 22 rifles and things like that. And they've each gravitated to different weapons, which is kind of fun. Some of the kids enjoy the bows more, some of them enjoy the rifles more, some of them enjoy the shotguns more. Trent really has gravitated to the handgun shooting, which is a lot of fun. We support him doing that. It's just a great way for us to connect, do things together. For him to do something outside, to me it beats the heck out of a video game. Sitting on the computer, watching TV, gets him outside, and it's teaching him to not only enjoy a sport, but also be safe and be comfortable around firearms. It doesn't get much better than that.
You know, the Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting. It has to do with the lawful right to self-defense. I hear a lot of people say that hunters don't need to own some of these guns that we hear about in the press these days. Like I just said, hunting's got nothing to do with it. Self-defense does. We have 5 million members, but there are 100 million or more gun owners in the country. We do the work for all of them.
Now, hunting is a big part of conservation. It's controlling game, but it's also paying for wildlife management. What I like to say is every time you hear a gun go bang, that's a ka-ching for conservation. Because you're paying taxes, Pittman-Robertson taxes on the ammunition and on the firearms. So it's not just hunters who are paying those taxes, it's all gun owners. We're all in this together and we're all fighting for conservation together. That's how America's First Freedom, a political magazine, is so well linked in the NRA to American Hunter. It's interesting because the antelope, only about a century ago, there were about 13,000 of them left. People thought they were going to go extinct. Early on, the Boone and Crockett Club, and this is early 20th century, thought it's gone, the antelope are going to disappear. But sportsmen got active at that point in time behind the Boone and Crockett Club and around the country, got active to save the antelope, as we did many other species. Now there are estimated to be about 1 million antelope across the western United States. It's a fantastic story that sportsmen, hunting dollars and sportsmen pulling together came and saved this species, as they did so many other species across North America. So I'm out here hunting antelope in Colorado, but as I travel the country and do these kinds of things, it's amazing the connection you get to the earth and to what you're actually eating, your actual sustenance. There's nothing more green, as to use the modern vernacular, than game meat. It's raised out there, it has total chance to get away. So when you're hunting them, you're actually getting yourself more and more close to the environment. Opening day in Colorado, and we were out there glassing, looking for antelope. And we ended up on this group of antelope, and it was one good buck with a bunch of does, and they're still rutting. So he was with that harem of does that he had. So we checked him out, and we found out, he's a pretty good buck, let's get on him. But he saw us first, and it was kind of strange. We started stalking the buck. He went up onto a hill, we followed him up, crawling, keeping the wind in the right direction and keeping behind cover as much as we possibly could. But he actually ended up splitting off from his does. We don't really understand why. They won't usually leave their does. His does went one way, he went another way. Well, that led to a very interesting afternoon because it was go find the antelope, which you'd think would be easy, but there's so many terrain features out there, even in open sagebrush kind of country, breaks and draws and things where that antelope can go. We got out of sight and then made a stalk, and I had to crawl a good long way to get up on him. And slowly I could see his horns coming above the sagebrush at about 300 yards, and I could see his body. Couldn't quite get high enough on the bipod, so took up the sticks and slowly got up, and then he had us, but he wasn't sure what we were. The wind was moving about 15 to 20 miles an hour and gusting. It was about 300-yard shot, so it took a little bit of thinking. But that American Hunter rifle is heavy enough, and it has a beautiful trigger. I knew it was going to shoot well. I'd taken it to the range the day before, and had walked it out to 400 yards and was extremely comfortable out to 400 yards. So I waited until he turned slightly for me. I made those adjustments that I needed to make for windage, for drop. Dust cloud, he's down in the dust cloud, man.
Good job, buddy.
What a stalk. We spotted him like a mile over there. He splits off from these does. He gets moving. We have to do this long circular stalk around, get around him, find him.
How many times do they leave the does? This guy just splits off.
He
We got
just-
in there tight to him earlier, and he wasn't there.
I guess just rotten, right? So they're just looking for does.
Yep.
Wow, he set us on a chase, but what a buck. What a
Yes, he
hunt.
did. Heck yeah, buddy. Great shooting.
Wow, thanks for getting me here, man.
You bet, man. Congrats.
Let's go check him out.
Yes, sir.
And I feel awe and respect for that animal. He gave his life for me, for sustenance. This is the nature of the game. And I'll tell this to vegans when I talk to them. I'll say there's blood on your salad, and I like to shock them with that. They'll step back and go, what are you talking about? Well, even a farmer has to protect his crops so you can have that vegetable to eat. So he's protecting those crops. He has to control the game populations that are on his property. If you tell him you can't protect his crops, what's he going to do? He's going to take away the hedgerows, he's going to take away any wildlife habitat that's around that's going to impact his crops. You harvest that animal, you bring it back to your table, you butcher it, maybe yourself, you take it to a butcher, it comes back to your table, the sustenance is enjoyed, and you're actually helping the species in the process because this is all managed by wildlife biologists. We're part of that whole system, and you start to feel your own role and acknowledge your own role in that system. It's an important thing for conservation across the world.